Yeah.
They made it, huh? Y'all got stands, huh? That's all right.
All right.
They see that to the inside ain't gonna be. Once you on the outside, you see what they talking about. Rick, I'm not kidding. What did happen? My HOA says for 10:30. I think used to be ownership. Watch your step. Fire bathrooms inside, stairs on both sides, take you up top. Fire bathrooms inside.
All right, how you doing?
Good.
Is there a restroom on the boat?
Look left, you turn and go down another set of stairs. You're there.
Is there a restroom on the boat?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Inside on the first level, there's that set of stairs and take you down.
Okay, that's the one.
You can go on this side.
Okay, thank you. Good. I'm not gonna order anything. I'm just looking.
Okay.
Bless you. Ooh, look at that water. What music video is that from? Yes. I'll subscribe back to you if you get it correct.
Water. Amtrak Railroad Bridge. Just below you, Street, that is.
Good afternoon, welcome aboard the Summer of George. All right. My name is Joe, and I'll be your captain for the next 90 minutes of amazing architecture and history. But before we get started, there are a few things that I need to point out to you for your safety and convenience. This being a U.S. customer-inspected vessel, she carries all required safety equipment, including, of course, life jackets, which we have in 2 different places. On the upper deck, they're in that large silver box at the right rear of the upper deck. Downstairs, they're where we came on board the boat, underneath the right or starboard side staircase. They are for immersions only. Please don't remove them or tamper with them. You're free, of course, to move around, but watch your step at all times. And please don't stand on the seats, sit on the railings, or sit in the backs of the seats. This is for your own safety, as well as safety of our seats. Standing in the bow of the boat with your arms spread, yelling "I'm the king of the world" is permitted. But it's very cliche. Be sure to use the handrails going up and down the stairs. And as you enter or exit the salon, you must step up and over a threshold. So watch your step there. Inside the salon, you'll find our restrooms, or heads as they're called on a boat. They're actually downstairs in the salon. You go down those stairs at the left front of the salon, and you'll find our 2 restrooms.
Hey, don't be recording me, guys.
What's in those restrooms? You'll be using marine toilets. They are very sensitive and they clog very easily. So please only put things in them that belong there. Also downstairs, we have a full-service bar! All right, the bar's got a fan club. We have hot drinks, cold drinks, soft drinks, hard drinks, bottles of water, beer, snacks, hot dogs, all kinds of good stuff down at the bar. Those of you who've already found the bar, raise your drinks in triumph. All right. For the rest of you, don't those look good?
Hey, mister. Is it possible that he could say Tyler P. Jones?
I'd like to show the upper deck.
I can do that for you.
A celebrity? Okay.
Tyler P. Jones. Yep. I'll call him out and do it. Okay, can do, will do.
Richest person of all time.
Weirdest?
Richest.
Oh, richest.
Richest person of all time.
What is it, Tyler?
Tyler P. Jones. Yeah, P's and period.
Got you, man.
If you need to
Thank
make
you.
or take a call or have an extended conversation, please do so downstairs. And lastly, we go under 4 very low bridges, each one twice. Our guide will warn you about those bridges as we approach. But look ahead before you stand up on the upper deck. And look ahead before you come to the stairs to the upper deck to make sure you're not about to go to a low bridge. And please resist the temptation to reach up and touch the low bridges. If you're curious, take my word for it, the bridges feel like steel. Enough of me. I'm going to mic over to David, our tour guide, one of the best. Dave is a fountain of knowledge, a plethora of tidbits, a cornucopia of information. Without further ado, or for the superlatives, here's David. Give him a hand.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome aboard, and thank you for that warm welcome. Keep it going, y'all, for Captain Joe. And a very special welcome to Tyler P. Jones. Nice to have you on the boat. Where are you, so I might embarrass you?
Woo! Hey, Simon!
Woo, 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 woo!
He's somewhere out there.
He's down here.
As Captain Joe mentioned, my name is David. I'll be your docent or tour guide for the next 90 minutes on this, the Chicago River Architectural Tour. Now, friends, you are in for a real treat. For the next 90 minutes, it is my pleasure to highlight for you the world-class architecture here in Chicago. As we travel our beloved river here, we will discuss the different styles of architecture. We're going to break down the buildings and peel back the layers of time. You will see and learn about what was popular, when, and why. We do dig deeply on this tour, develop several themes. We do go beyond the facades, and we're going to actually nerd out on material. We're going to nerd out on engineering. And we're going to nerd out on the history of Chicago. I'll bring the stories to life as we weave the tales of downtown Chicago in and out of these buildings. Have the cameras out, keep your head on a swivel. Kindly do be mindful of your neighbors who are also taking pictures, having drinks, enjoying the tour, right? You're all here to live your best lives. A boat tour at 2 p.m. on Saturday in the summer in Chicago. So yeah, heck yeah. We love that energy. We're going to feed off of it. So sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and enjoy your journey out here. Welcome to our world. And in the interest of full disclosure, I am fitting to crush this tour. Yeah, I usually do 5 on Saturdays, like 5 and 90-minute journeys. It's crazy. Today just 3. So I call it a half day, and you are number 3 out of 3. Welcome. Yes. And we love being out here. We love doing this. We do not get tired of it. You might think every day is the same out here, but it's very different all the time. A lot of new projects happening. plenty of research to do. We do a 90-minute journey, and we actually do cover more of the Chicago River than other boat companies. So you'll see more and learn more on this tour. Who wants to go for a boat ride? Yes, indeed. We do pass everything twice. Keep the cameras out. Keep your head on a swivel.
They just
I was on springboard to go enjoy more of Chicago. So you'll get recommendations in the forms of neighborhoods, restaurants, lounges, rooftop bars.
One of my fans must be here.
At time for
One must have spotted me on
the
here.
stories of my family
low
the tour
profile.
as the roots run very deeply here in Chicago. So just like that, we are underway. Let's do this. Now, folks, Chicago is known for many things, one of which is that we are the birthplace of the modern-day skyscraper. It was the use of steel framing that gave rise to high-rises. The first time they used it here in Chicago was back in 1885. In 1885, that is when the man who invented the steel frame came to Chicago and built a 10-story tall building called the Home Insurance Building. People do chuckle at the idea of a 10-story tall skyscraper. That was actually twice the height of what was built in Chicago previous. If you double anything, it's a big deal. It's all relative. But twice the height previous to what? The Great Chicago Fire of 1871. The Great Fire showcased how after 37 years of building predominantly out of wood, after nearly 4 decades of having no zoning laws, no fireproofing, right? No big city can stand the test of time. In fact, Chicago caught fire a lot in the early years of its existence, so much so that people called it the tinderbox. Like a sick joke, right? Everyone knew the town was doomed, not really a matter of if, but when. Now, the thing that really put Chicago back on the map after the fire was not just new high-rises, right, to kind of meet the demand for high prices. The idea was building a tall building would give you more floor plates, allow you more leases and tenants to make you more money. The thing, though, that really launched us back to life was hosting a World's Fair. The 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, known as the White City. It drew 31 million visitors. The lead architect behind the fair, Daniel Burnham. Burnham and his team built a beautiful Greco-Roman style capital for the fair. 250 buildings, all temporary, save but for one. Go see the only building remaining from the fair in Hyde Park, Chicago's South Side neighborhood where the fair was held. It's today the Museum of Science and Industry. Now, the Greco-Roman style that was used for the fair, so well received by people who came to see it, so popular at that time, it actually went from the fair into conversations about architecture. It ended up becoming parts of the facades of the early high-rises, what we call the curtain walls of these buildings. And to find our first building, come with me now. It was actually designed by Daniel Burnham. You'll see that Greco-Roman influence right away. Out there to the forward right-hand side, here beyond the trees, you will see emerging shortly 2 nondescript brick buildings. They're sitting quietly here in the downtown South Loop. There's the first of the 2. That is the Vogue building. Across the street from it is the Dixon building. They're each over 120 years old. Kindly look just past them. See that off-white, stocky stone tower taking up an entire city block? That's 175 West Jackson. You're talking early 20th century, early example of one of the first high-rises in Chicago, designed by the guy who gave us the White City, Daniel Burnham. Notice the upper part of the building there at the cornice. A 3-story Roman colonnade. Those columns are not supporting anything, they're purely decorative, but those Ionic style columns are again indicative of post-fire, post-fair, Chicago rebuilding itself after the fire. And then in the distance, with the statue on top, that's our beloved Chicago Board of Trade. She's from 1930. In the 20s and 30s, it was all about Art Deco. They truly captured the zeitgeist or the spirit of the times as they were taller or slender, typically clad in really smooth limestone, geometric shapes. The elegant setbacks we associate with Art Deco is due to zoning laws passed in 1923. Developers were told to reduce the mass of the building on top so more sunlight would come into the city streets. The statue on top of the Chicago Board of Trade, her name is Ceres. Ceres is the Greco-Roman goddess of grain. She pays tribute to the fact that the Chicago Board of Trade originally was a grains exchange. And the Chicago Board of Trade, that building by firm Halliburton and Root, that was the tallest building in Chicago for 25 years. She's a mind-melting 45 stories tall. Now the tallest skyscraper in Chicago, coming into view to the forward right, the dark black boxy structure here, is a good example of modernism. In the mid-century, it was all about dark black boxes. They had abandoned the stone. Corporate America wanted office space, glass and steel, dark black boxes. We often call them the Miesian black boxes, as the father of modern architecture is a man named Mies van der Rohe, a fellow from Germany who moved to Chicago from Germany in 1938. Now this tower here, though, is designed by Bruce Graham with Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. She stands 1,451 feet in height, 110 stories tall. You know this building. You love this building. It is, of course, the Sears Tower. Very well done, thank you. Yeah, no one calls it Willis Tower. Those are fighting words.
Those are fighting words. Don't
And then kindly do look to your right. That's 311 South Wacker Drive by a guy from New York called Cone Pedersen Fox. See how nothing about 311 South Wacker looks like the Sears? It came after modernism. It was built in the 90s. So you'll hear me say a lot in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. They had a lot of fun with the architecture, color, material, like the red and pink granite on 311 South Wacker Drive, all that stone came from Texas. They light up the big cylinders on top of the building at night, very bright white with over 1,400 fluorescent luminaries. You'll hear me say that again often, that in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, let's have some fun, right? As they had just endured 3 decades of modernism. Now here's the secret as to how the Sears Tower was built in 1974. This is known as bundle tube construction. Bundle tube construction, like there's 9 separate buildings that make up the Sears. They're in a 3x3 configuration. As you look up there, note how only 2 of the 9 bundle tubes go all the way to the tippy top. The lead architect who built the building, Bruce Graham, he worked alongside the man who invented bundle tube construction, an ingenious engineer from Bangladesh named Dr. Fazlur Khan. The Sears was the tallest in the world from 1974 to 1996. Right now she's the 24th tallest building on the planet, but she is the 4th tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. And those 9 buildings bundled up together, they can sway up to 18 inches in either direction. There'd be no structural damage. So yeah, go to the observation deck on a windy day. You'll feel the building moving around. A 3-inch sway is common. It's like daily how she behaves. 6 inches is the most the Sears Tower ever shifted, and those who were up there that day scared the bejeebus out of them. Absolutely. Now watch this, here to our left. That's Gateway Center 1 and 2. These are modern skyscrapers built in the 50s and 60s, folks. These corporate soul-crushing buildings were designed by Bruce Graham. The same guy who built these and went on to build the Sears, right, lets us know that, yeah, these kind of look like what could become one day a Sears Tower. If you had these 2, add 7, call it 9, put them together, stretch them out, that's how they did it. And then note how the buildings to our left are built over the Metra and Amtrak trains. Developers who build above the tracks have to release the air from the railroad, then you build your building. These Metra and Amtrak trains are feeding into Ogilvy and Union Station. You can watch and listen in real time as folks come and go from the city here at the train stations. And look at this lovely view there to the forward left. I call this the layers of time. You've got an old brick warehouse there from 1914. There's 2 of them over there. They are massive. They were designed by Daniel Burnham. They speak to the industry in the form of shipping, meat packing, rail yards, manufacturing that Chicago really was built upon, being a Rust Belt city here on the Great Lakes. Shifting to the right of the brick building, look how overwhelming the Boeing headquarters is. Clock, architectural spire, look at all that material. She's from 1990, right, by Perkins and Will. Folks, the 13-story portion closest to us had to be cantilevered. They had to hang or suspend that part of the building. They did so with trusses and cross bracing on top, which they left exposed, because of course you would in the 90s. They had to hang that building so that the switching tracks could run freely beneath. Pretty cool. And then here to our left, it's the Daily News building from 1929. See the setbacks, verticality, geometric shape, and limestone? It was done by Halliburton & Root, the same firm that did the Chicago Board of Trade. But we nicknamed the Daily News building here the Sphinx building. We call it the Sphinx building as these paws, or rather annexes that you see at the edges, those are the paws. The building is the lion sitting there facing the river. Y'all with that? Don't overthink this, help your neighbors. Why would Halliburton & Root do Neo-Egyptianism in 1929? Well, it was the roaring 20s. The market is hot. Prohibition, gangsters, bootlegging, the women's suffrage movement. In 1923, archaeologists uncovered King Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings. His tomb had not been ransacked by grave robbers, so all the gold they buried him with was still in the burial chamber. This blew people's minds. The wealth and prestige of ancient Egypt was thrusted into the minds of Americans. That stuff then found its way into conversations about architecture. Now, buildings of today are truly remarkable. We have a nice collection of contemporary structures here to the forward left. a building that frankly should not exist due to the specs of the property, yet here she is, a 55-story tall building by Getch Partners known as 150 North Riverside Plaza. Why does the building look this way? Due to the property specs. In Chicago, you legally have to have a riverwalk. That ate up 40 feet of space on the water's edge. On the other side of the building are those inbound and outbound trains, which you can't build into, but you can build above. They built a park above the tracks. There's your riverwalk, and here is a 55-story tall building sitting on a 37-foot wide foundation. The caissons of this building go down 126 feet. 6 of those feet are actually socketed into the bedrock. It's anchored into the planet. 6 feet all the way into the bedrock. That is the deepest foundation in Chicago. As we watch the L train walk overhead here at Lake Street. You're very tall. Watch your head here at Lake Street. So in 16 years of doing this, I've never been hit in the head by a bridge. There have been stuff. I got him halfway. What do you want? And then look how nice it is here. Welcome to Wolf Point. It is the confluence of the 3 branches of the Chicago River. We get a really good look at this brand spanking new tower. These new buildings have gone back to being big glass boxes. They feature what I have come to call shadow lines. Gives the building massing, draws your eye vertically. Here's the fun thing about Wolf Point South. The building is mirroring itself top to bottom. The pattern you see way at the top as she sets back into the sky, you come down the shadow lines to the base, that's the exact same pattern down here as she tapers into herself. So if I flipped Wolf Point South upside down, she would still give me the same silhouette, the same presentation. It's a beautiful new tower by Pelly Clark Architects. They did lease the naming rights, now they call it Salesforce Tower. So we call it Wolf Point South. Thank you. A downtown favorite here to the right, friends. The curvy glass building at Wolf Point. People will say it's a downtown favorite. The blue and green glass mimic the green river and blue sky that it reflects, folks. And the bend in the building is following the bend in the river. She's from 1983, right? They call that contextualism, referencing the environment. Something like that makes sense in the 80s as they've just endured 3 decades of modernism, right? The dark black boxes. And the most important thing you all should know about 333 West Wacker Drive, that building served as Ferris Bueller's dad's office in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And when John Hughes did the exterior shot of the building for the movie, look for this next you watch. Towards the start of the film, in that shot of the building, a little boat is going by on the Chicago River. Who do you think was deckhanding on that boat that's in the movie? Not me, I was 3. It was Captain Joe. He was deckhanding on that boat in the film. His dad was the one driving the vessel. Yes, indeed. And then here to our left, see the heads that face the Merchandise Mart, one of the world's biggest office buildings ever built? Those were commissioned by Joseph P. Kennedy when he owned the Merchandise Mart. He called them the Princes of Merchandise. People like Marshall Field and Montgomery Ward are up there.
Right in the
Folks,
Illinois
Marshall
Institute of
Field
Art.
paid for the Merchandise Mart. It's got 4.2 million square feet of space. He consolidated 13 warehouses for his mail order catalog company into that one building. It's got 7 miles of hallways and corridors, and the building used to have its own zip code. It was 60654. It's an Art Deco building by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White, and let's all watch our heads here at Wells Street. And photographers, wait till you see the view here. Boom. There's fog rolling in from the north along the lakefront. That fog will help your photos. It'll accentuate the heights of the buildings. Now the main branch is lovely, as you'll note. If you really want to enjoy the main branch, but you're not on a boat, you can do so on the Chicago Riverwalk. Off the right-hand side, you'll see a portion of the 1.25-mile stretch of awesomeness that is our newer Riverwalk. It's got shopping, dining, drinking, giggling, boating. You can have it all. Also, make sure you walk along Upper Wacker Drive. Upper Wacker was inspired by the River Seine. One of our nicknames, Paris on the Prairie. And you can thank Daniel Burnham, as it was his 1909 plan of Chicago that out much of what this city is. And when he was having his ideas, he was imagining himself in Paris. Upper Wacker Drive, Buckingham Fountain, Graham Park, Michigan Avenue Bridge, all Parisian inspired. Now here to our left in River North, you could go by an old brick building and not think much of it, but folks, here to our left is the Reed Murdoch Center. She's from 1914. It's a prairie-style warehouse by George Nimmons, who we call the warehouse guy. He built 13 of them here in Chicago. Notice the horizontal line 3/4 the way up. It keeps the building low profile, helps it to hug the earth. If you're into architecture and you're familiar with Frank Lloyd Wright, his homes are all prairie style as well, right? They keep a low profile, hug the earth, a lot of horizontal lines. And now I've got for you what I think will become your new favorite building in Chicago. Brace yourselves, there it is to the forward right, 55 West Wacker Drive. What happened to you, bro? Who did this to you, fam? That heavy coarse concrete that might remind you of a bunker, FBI building, a police headquarters, a university structure, that's what's known as brutalism. Brutalism comes from the French béton brut, which roughly translates to coarse concrete. Governments and universities in the 60s and 70s, it's very inexpensive and easy to work with, and as you'll note, with brutalism, it tends to induce your compliance. Talk to your friends and family who got their degrees from UIC, Circle campus here in Chicago, a lot of brutalist buildings there. And now here's something actually lovely. Out to the forward right in the sky, you will see 24 karat gold trickling down the top of that green terracotta tower. It's an Art Deco building designed by Daniel Burnham's sons, the Burnham brothers as they were known. Why is the gold on the high rise there? Well, it was the roaring 20s. People are getting rich. They had just found King Tut's tomb. But more deeply into architecture, this is the beginning of a theme I developed. Architecture is a conversation over time. When the Burnham brothers did the Carbide and Carbon building, they put gold on it because that had already been done in New York City. Yeah, Raymond Hood's Radiator building in New York. The Radiator in New York City has gold on it, so we have gold here in Chicago on our beloved Carbide and Carbon building. Do go walk by that one later. It's a historical landmark on Michigan Avenue. A building they said, when it was built, broke all the rules. You may want to walk by this one later as well. There to the forward right, the skinniest skyscraper in Chicago. That's the former Lincoln or former Mather Tower by Herbert Riddle. She dates back to 1928. It's got this beautiful white glazed terracotta. That white glazed terracotta really shimmers when the sun hits off it right. Beautiful as white glazed terracotta is, it's very fragile. In fact, white glazed terracotta is so fragile, I pronounce that word that way. Sometimes I tell guests it's fragile. And we call the building the Gothic Rocket. It has that Gothic revivalism, very cool old building here at Wacker Drive in Michigan Ave. Now, Michigan Avenue Bridge is the old shoreline of Lake Michigan. Everything past the bridge is landfill or filled land. The bridge is modeled actually after Alexander III's bridge in Paris, France. She was built 1920, designed by Edward H. Bennett. Now, the bridge and the roadway is the site of where Chicago's first non-native resident lived, a half-African, half-French man named Dusable. Dusable was born in Hispaniola, which today is Haiti and the DR. He was living here on the lakefront as a fur trapper trader and frontiersman. He married a Native American princess. He spoke Spanish, French, English, a number of Native American dialects. And folks, he lived here to our left on the old lakefront from 1777 to 1800. Let's all watch our heads here. Dusable lived since the day of the Tribune Tower. See to our left here, friends? Look past the windows here at the Apple Store. It's Gothic revivalism, with ribbon windows and verticality, geometric shapes and limestone, so it is Art Deco. Flying beneath Old Glory there, you'll see flying buttresses, those upside down L's. When you see a building, folks, like the Tribune has a decorative base and a decorative cornice, that's called the Chicago School. So the Tribune has Chicago School, Art Deco, and French Gothic revivalism. The building's from 1924, and that was the winning design by Raymond Hood and John Mead Howells, when in 1922 the Tribune Company had a competition, when then owner Colonel Robert McCormick had a competition to see who could design the most beautiful building in the world for their downtown Chicago office. Over 260 entries came in from architects from 13 different nations. Go see the Tribune Tower. People now live in that building. Super cool building, the state where Dusable lived. And then here to our left, let's have, which is actually the third tallest skyscraper in Chicago. Welcome to the St. Regis. This is actually a concrete building, sheathed in beautiful glass. The building was inspired by the naturally forming crystals that occur in things like fluorite and sapphire. Your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. There are 6 different shades of glazing on the glass. The different shades help to accentuate the widening and thinning of the building. She climbs up into the sky 1,198 feet. She is 101 stories tall. The building was designed by a female architect. Her name is Jeannie Gang. Now, Jeannie Gang is from Illinois. She grew up in Belvedere, a small town near Illinois. Champaign-Urbana, who also owns her own architectural firm. Having said all of that, let's please hear it for our ladies here today. Yeah, ladies, you're number one. Ladies are number one. At number two, children. At number three, the elderly. At number four, your pets. Number five, cherished memories. And then you get six. Right on. See, this guy's right. He goes, six sounds all right. The gentleman's correct. Ladies, men love that joke. You know why? Because six is the biggest number I said so far. Let's go. Okay, enjoy your six, gentlemen. Now, see the bridge houses here at Lakeshore Drive? They look like Art Deco style buildings. This is a value-added bonus. As you wander the river later, check out the bridge houses. That's where bridge tenders used to open and close these things all day, every day. When the bridge was first built, the bridge houses would have been done in the style popular at the time. So the double-lean, double-decker, bascule onion bridge that is Lakeshore Drive. She's from 1938, so of course she's got Art Deco style bridge houses. And you'll feel a slight dip in the temperature. It's always cooler by the lake. Welcome to the turning basin. Big ups to Captain Joe for bringing us all the way out here to see things like the Chicago Harbor Lock. Right now you'll see vessels entering into that narrow corridor. They're about to have the doors closed behind them, and they'll open the far side doors. Tens of millions of 10,000-year-old melted plants in the water will dump off to the fifth biggest lake on the planet into the lock, raising those boats up about 6 feet as the lake level is higher than the level here on the river. Once those boats raise up, an alarm sounds. That's the Army Corps of Engineers telling them to make their way out onto the Great Lake known as Lake Michigan, which the Native Americans who lived here first called Michigamme. Michigamme meant the Great Sea. The swamp that Chicago was built upon, the natives called it Chicagua or Chicagua. That means strong or great. Yay. But that means that strong or great was actually a reference to the odor emitted from the swamp this town is built upon. As swamps are always very smelly, but add to that, onions, garlics, and leeks used to grow wild here in what is now Chicago. So welcome to stinky, smelly, oniony, garlic, and leaky Chicago. And you'll see the boats out here on the lakefront. You'll see these last couple of boats really trying to make their way into the narrow corridor that is the lock. Built in 1938 by the Army Corps of Engineers. They operate it today. It operates all day, every day, all year long, and is free to use. And something tells me this 36-footer is not going to get there. And that's sad. That's our neighbor. They may have to wait as that bay liner is having a hard time with its starboard stern, but they will be in there, and this guy shall not. Please don't think of Navy Pier as a bogus tourist trap. It's from the Daniel Burnham plan of 1909. They built it in 1914. It's the only pier they built of the several they envisioned. It was built by Bennett, Parsons, and Frost, who also did Michigan Avenue, Upper and Lower Wacker Drive, and Buckingham Fountain. For World War I, this pier was utilized as an army barracks. You should go. For World War II, the pier was converted then into a naval aviation training facility. Folks, I kid you not, over 2,000 pilots. Now, very intensive flight training for World War II, just out here on Lake Michigan. They did so on two vessels, one called the Sable and one called the Wolverine. The new hotel is called Sable. The ballroom at the end is amazing. Go view it or have your event there. The world's largest rooftop bar is at Navy Pier. It's called Offshore. If you want to see a play, we have a great theater district, but do go see a play at Navy Pier at Shakespeare Theater. Yeah, see a play at the Shakespeare and get some iambic pentameter in your life. I'll get out of the way. I'll take the first of 3 very short breaks. Have the cameras out, friends. Be mindful of your neighbors if everyone's going to want this picture. Get a photo here as the fog drifts by, accentuating the heights of these buildings. You'll get photos here of what is arguably one of the most beautiful skylines. We'll pick back up very shortly with 2 more to go. Thanks for listening, folks. Great to see you to Chicago. We'll see you soon. Cheers. Thank you.
Couldn't find you, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
No, I just keep recording.
Folks, we have we have 13 harbors here in Chicago, over 5,000 boat slips, we have over 24 beaches. Make sure you embrace Chicago's neighborhoods, the lounges, speakeasies, make sure you embrace the river and the lakefront. And get a load of this one here to the right. That is Lake Point Towers, a one of them built in 1968. We call it the Flask Building. Young kids today call it the Fidget Spinner Tower. It may look like the Miesian black boxes from the mid-century, but curvy. The curvy walls are a wind bracing tactic, and it was built by students of Mies van der Rohe, George Shipwright and John Heinrich. Now, what makes Lake Point Towers one of a kind? That's the only building in this city you can live in that is east of Lakeshore Drive. It's illegal to build on land east of Lakeshore Drive. The city of Chicago did sue developers when they tried to build there. It's a 26-mile-long walk. There's a caveat, there's a carve-out, a legal loophole as far as that property is concerned. It used to be a functioning rail yard and freight terminal. When they wrote the law, including that property was moot, as it already existed. That carried over to the new owner. They went to court against the city, who was very confident. Then they won. City officials were apoplectic. They closed that legal loophole regarding that site right up. No more shenanigans or ballyhoo. There she stands, one of a kind, Lake, formerly home to Sammy Sosa, Ozzie Guillen, Joakim Noah, Scottie Pippen, Alice Cooper used to live there, and so too did all of our favorites, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. Now friends, as we come back onto the river from the turning basin, look to the forward left. You get a really good look here at Jeannie Gang's St. Regis. This is from where she's meant to be enjoyed. And engineering-wise, the building's got it going on, man. The top you'll see at the 8th on the tower. The building also does have, though, a tuned mass damper. Dampers will dampen the effect of the wind. There's big concrete tanks of water on top of the building, tens of thousands of gallons of water. When the building vibrates, the water will slosh about in the tanks. That creates the inertia to stunt the building back to a standstill. People have bought condos above the blow-through floor and beneath the tuned mass damper. Y'all know me, I can't wait to meet these people. I'm going to mercilessly tease them about how they, of their own volition, now permit wind and water to work in tandem to stabilize their lives up high in the sky in this high-rise, and how is actually quite unsettling. The waterfalls to the right are the waterways that lead out to the Atlantic Ocean. The plate on top in the middle, that's Chicago. The falls there on the left are the river systems that lead down to top in the overall height of the building, as it's part of the building's design. You don't count the antenna we saw earlier on the Sears. Because a Chicagoan designed it, it does fit into our theme. Architecture is a conversation over time. Each one of the setbacks on Trump Tower, they are set at the height of a neighboring building. The building is referencing other people's work in the area. Trump Tower represents references the Wrigley Building, the London Guarantee and Accident Building, and the IBM Building, each of which you'll see and I'll tell you all about. Because Trump Tower is from 2009, it does have more texture on the facade. Buildings of today are just glass and what I call shadow. Former corporate headquarters of Wrigley's Chewing Gum. It's where Wrigley Field gets the name from. The Cubbies are on the road right now at Cincy, so you could go take a tour of Wrigley and see what the Ricketts family. The Wrigley building sits there to the forward. The lovely white tower there with the clock tower on top. Folks, there's actually two buildings that make up the Wrigley. South Tower and North Tower, right? 1921, 1924, all done by Graham, Anderson, Probst & White, the same firm that gave us the Merchandise Mart. The Wrigley building is done in the Spanish style of architecture. It's all Spanish revivalism. And we mentioned briefly earlier Chicago School. The buildings that have a decorative base, what we call a baseline, and then a decorative cornice or capital. They call that a cornice line. It's a three-piece system, right? A tripartite would do so. Now, the second building Trump Tower references is one of my favorites. Left-hand side, past the bridge, has a Greco-Roman temple on top, Corinthian line, your cornice line, Greco-Roman style, and Chicago School. Notice the griffins that are on the lower right and left-hand side, done as a stone relief. That's all limestone from Indiana. They call it Bedford limestone. 23, designed by Alfred S. Alschler. The building sits on the site of what used to be Fort Dearborn. Built in 1803, that used to be one of the westernmost forts in America. Now here's the fun thing for our theme, about all this being connected. See the sawtooth-shaped window frames on the new glass element beneath London House? That's Getch Partners building that portion with the baseline and cornice line lining up perfectly, right, with the original limestone building. It became a hotel in 2017, so that's 2017 showing up, reaching out and shaking hands with 1923. not being referenced by Trump Tower, but I do want to get this one in. To the forward left-hand side, that two-tone stone building, it's modeled after a 15th century Italian monastery. That's our beloved Jewelers building from 1826. The feature on top of the middle is called a Hova here. The lower right and left-hand sides, those are called tempietos. What looks like different shades of terracotta there in the Jewelers, that's locally sourced limestone. They saved a bundle. But they made it look like you're wandering through Florence trying to find Ponte Vecchio, looking for David. Now the third building Trump Tower references is here to the right. You may want to get a picture here of the IBM building. Why? Youngest in Chicago to be declared a historical landmark, built 1977, designed by Mies van der Rohe, the father of modernism. That's the last commercial building he built in America before he passed away. And of the dozen buildings he built in Chicago, that is the only one he built that is right smack dab on the river. In fact, Mies van der Rohe taught here in Chicago at what is now IIT. One of his students was a man named Bertrand Goldberg. Now, Goldberg rejected modernism. He did not like the dark black box. How do you know that? He built these. Quite literally, the antithesis of modernism. These are our beloved corn cob buildings, or the Marina City Towers. They're made of concrete. They were built in the 60s. They're 60 stories apiece. We call them the Chicago tree houses and the Chicago flower towers. The units are pedal-shaped, and if you do live here, they have a valet to park your car. See that? See that? See that? See that? There's not a person in the world who trusts you to do that. Now here to our left is an amazing building. It's from the 90s, so big color, big material, a big part of our theme. This is 77 West Wacker Drive, the old R.R. Donnelly building. Pull back and take it all in. It's modeled after a single Greco-Roman column. It was inspired by Giotto's Bell Tower in Florence, Italy. Look up Giotto's Bell Tower if you're unfamiliar. Compare that to this, you'll say, wow. The very top of the building, here at 77 West Wacker by James DeStefano and Ricardo. That is a tip of the hat to the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. That was a fun one, again, from the 90s. It was all about big ideas, replacing the modern skyscrapers that came before it. And when Ricardo Bofill came from Barcelona to Chicago to build that building in the 90s, that was at that time the largest project of his life. And to kind of keep the theme of showing you how the old and new exist very nicely together, friends, out to the forward left, kind of squatty, that's 222 West Wacker Drive. You see how part of it's from 1928 and part of it's from 1988? I'm not trying to patronize you, but look how it all comes together very nicely, and like you gotta actually have to look, you gotta see what's what. In 1928, Graham Anderson, Probst and White gave us the left-hand side. It's got white brick, white clay terracotta. It has Chicago School, baseline, cornice line. It's got, as a stone roof, Ionic-style Roman columns. And up top, a three-story Roman colonnade. And then see how the addition is 1988 by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. Light masonry, trapezoidal bays. Again, you can tell, but just look how purposefully they brought it together to look like one thing. And then really quickly, and that's okay, on the right-hand side, look straight up. We nicknamed this building back in 2009 the Flash Drive building. That's Pickard Chilton's 300 North LaSalle. We kind of thought it looked like a massive thumb drive. You could pick it up, plug it in, download your GPS reports, your photos, your documents. Let's all watch our heads here at Wall Street. So, is Pickard Chilton built the Flash Drive building back in 09? What does his stuff look like today? I'll push you now back to the contemporary era. Pickard Chilton's new building is that one there right ahead of us. We call it the Hot Pocket Headquarters. The curved linear front of the building maximizes reflection of the sky, clouds, buildings, passing boats on the river. The curved linear front of the building is referenced to that downtown favor we talked about. You'll remember the curvy glass building at Wolf Point. I have come to call the new style of architecture cloudism. These buildings give you clouds, and that's where your documents are today. But the truth is, I'm reading articles now, people are calling this stuff scar-architecture. Scar-architecture, right? Like pristine glass boxes that appear to have been sliced vertically. The shadow lines, that I call them, people are now seeing as injury. Now, we saw earlier the Wolf Point South building there ahead of us. The very same firm that did that, Pelly Clark Architects, they also did this one to our immediate right. Salesforce Towers for working, Wolf Point East is for living. See the three stone columns that are there at the bottom right-hand side? See how that stone stands in great contrast to what's above it? But note how it matches the Riverwalk. That's using material to transition the eye from a luxury rental to the smooth, mellow vibes of our Riverwalk. And the people you see on that third floor deck, that's an indoor-outdoor pool. Heck yeah. Studio 1, 2, 3 bedrooms in. Wolf Point East, Wolf Point South, around the bend. In a moment, you'll see Wolf Point West. These three buildings, along with River Point ahead of us, and the aforementioned 150 North Riverside Plaza, none of these existed 8 years ago. It's been wild to actually watch the Wolf Point location get reimagined, and a lot of our history is here. Hundreds of years ago, along these waterways, Potawatomi, Miami, Illinois, Algonquin groups, right? They call it the Swamp Chicagua. This is where the first 300 residents to call Chicago home lived, back when we were a small town, back in 1833. Illinois got statehood 1818. By 1837, there were then 3,000 people living here in Chicago. We became a city that year. We did enjoy that exponential population growth throughout the 1800s, thanks to the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence Seaway, Erie Canal. At one point, we were declared the busiest seaport on the planet once we surpassed New Orleans. So again, come down to Wolf Point, enjoy the fact that a lot of our history resides right here. The first residents in this town lived along these very banks, and those who live here now, they've got it pretty good. As you glance here to the forward right at Wolf Point West, a luxury rental by BKL Architects. I would always tell folks that BKL Architects is great with glass. Note the green glass there, right? We made brief mention of the green glass briefly earlier. That's a redundancy. Architects like to use the green glass as it mimics the color of the river water, which is green for two reasons. There is a clay bottom as well as two types of algae which grow down there. Something neat to note is we've only got so much space to build in this town, but the city is telling you got to have open, free, and clear river walks, parks, and gardens. So just note how the river walk and the building ended up on the same footprint. Just makes the design neat, right? You can see the exposed caissons holding up the building. You can see the belly of the beast. They offer studio 1, 2, 3 bedrooms here. 9 years ago when this thing opened up, the studio in there was $2,300 a month. That's a 9-year ago price. The studio is small, man. Just 492 square feet. Now, as we chill upon here for a moment, thanks to the traffic on the Chicago River, heck yeah, the railroad bridge ahead of us is from 1909. It's got historic landmark status. It's a good example of how these bascule trunnion bridges operate. This is a single leaf bridge. Many of our bridges are double leaved and meet in the middle. Bascule trunnion, they are French-inspired technology. Bascule could mean seesaw or teeter-totter. Trunnion is the term for the pivot point where the weight and the leaf are balanced. Folks, so well balanced are the leaves and weights on these bridges, only a 30 to 40 horsepower motor is required to kickstart the process to open up these bridges. They only open them now on Wednesdays and Saturdays, beginning and end of boat season. They do it so sailboats can come out for the year or go back in end of the season. They used to open them all day, every day, back in the day when cargo vessels had the right of way. Being from 1909 is pretty impressive, but the bridge here represents a train track that was actually the first train track ever to come in or out of Chicago. This track originally dates back to 1848. It was known as the Galena Chicago Railroad.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going.
And then also here to the forward left, see the triangular-shaped units? That's like the sail of a sailboat. Remember Harry Weiss did the Swiss Hotel that looked like the bow of a ship as we went by? He built the cottages 1988. They are inspired by sailing, private dock access, porthole style windows, and the circular staircases you see here at the Chicago River cottages. You'll find things like that inside of lighthouses. The reason why the cottages here maybe look like they're still under construction, that's what's known as European industrialism. Let's all watch our heads and wave to this guy. Watch your heads here, Kinsey. I think he enjoyed that too much. Folks, 3 of the 4 original purchasers of those units from 1990 there in the cottages, they still own them today. They bought them for $350 or $500,000. The only one that ever sold a second time sold 9 years ago. They bought it in 1990 for $350. Sold it 9 years ago for $1.2 million. That's right, all you youngsters out there, invest in real estate. Okay, get these kids a mortgage today.
That's why I'm not leaning over.
That's right. Once the bank owns your soul, you can really stretch your legs and live your life. Thanks, JP Morgan. I'll see you at the Titanic.
No.
Or not. It's a history joke that I work with. Now, a city of neighborhoods. Here to our left is Noble Square. This development here is called Kinsey Park. Kinsey Park has mid-rise and high-rise units, but along the water's edge there are 70 4-story townhomes. They're modeled to look like European row houses. Folks, before they even broke ground on Kinsey Park, before Papa George Haynes Architects built any of this, all 70 of the townhomes were purchased, bought before they were built. They went pre-construction pricing at 1.2. You want a 4-story townhome right now? They're about 1.8, $1.9 million. And everyone loves that rich house right there to your left. It's like the cottage you rent in the summer. Now, I'll say again, in River North, the neighborhood here to our right, it's an old warehouse district, right? So you could go buy a brick building and not think much of it. We saw the Reed Murdoch Center earlier by George Nimmons. I told you all we call him the warehouse guy. He built this one here on the right back in 1909. Today known as the Riverbank Lofts. When you see the black balconies on the old brick buildings in River North, South Loop, West Loop, they're all old warehouse districts. Yeah, that is a surefire way to know that people are now living in that building. In River North, go to Untitled, go to Boss Bar, Bub City, 3 dots in the dash, go to Rossi's, go to Snickers, go to the Green Door Tavern, the Billy Goat Tavern. Those are very high-end recommendations. But don't worry, they go all the way down to, oh my God, sweetheart, why are we here? Rossi's and Snickers are kind of sketchy and kind of awesome for you. Rossi's is cash only, and they open at 7 a.m. So, but once you've done all that in River North, don't forget to come down to the water. We believe that anyone who's anyone deserves to enjoy these waterways. That's why they're open, free, and clear. Here to the right, in River North, a park we do frequent. Welcome, welcome to Aaron Montgomery Ward Park. Named in his honor, many of us do remember Ward as being one of the big catalog company giants here in Chicago. Not at all unlike Spiegel or JCPenney's, Sears and Roebuck, Marshall Field. What folks tend to forget, though, about Aaron Montgomery Ward is that he actually battled the city of Chicago in court for over 2 decades with his own money to preserve a certain parcel of lakefront property, which then politicians and developers could not wait to build upon. They actually said they hated Aaron Montgomery Ward for getting in the way of progress. The area of land he battled the city over, folks, went on to become Chicago's front yard. That's Millennium Park, Grand Park, Museum Campus, Maggie Daley Park. Indeed, it is the jewel in the crown when you consider the 26 miles of lakefront on beautiful Lake Michigan. Again, the 5th biggest lake on the planet. Now, speaking of Aaron Montgomery Ward and catalog companies, thinking about the River North neighborhood as a warehouse district, folks, Aaron Montgomery Ward used to store his wares in that massive warehouse you see ahead of us. That thing was built in 1912. It's a prairie-style warehouse, right, that hugs the earth, keeps a low profile. They do so with brick lines that run horizontally. The building's a great example of what's called an adaptive reuse project. People now live, work, play, dine, drink, work out there. We boat there as well. There is a yacht club there called the Kingsbury Yacht Club, which JCPenney renamed to the River North Marina. But we affectionately know it today as, simply 600 West Chicago Avenue. A neat way to see how warehousing built on the river during an industrial era can now become a great place to live, work, play. And even that one to our right, that was designed and built for Aaron Montgomery Ward as well. He used to store his wares in that building as well, known today as One River Place. See that last balcony bottom right? Use the doorway there as scale to believe me when I tell you they have 16-foot high ceilings in those units. Combining the beauty of Art Deco in the 1920s with contemporary luxury living, folks, a 2-bedroom here at One River Place can hit the market right now for $550 without batting an eye. And then right ahead of us, in the future, to forward right, there will be an amphitheater. This will become a lovely riverwalk, convention center, restaurants, parks, gardens, and it's going to be a 35-story tall hotel with 450 rooms. You'll see people working up there on top of the hotel. That's incredible. The curvy, bending, flexing glass was designed to mimic the ever-changing waterways. We do watch in real time, as a lot of times on these tours, the crew are installing these glass panels. The ventilation, we've watched the precast paneling come in, all the stonework. The texture on the stonework is designed to mimic the Chicago skyline. Now, everything you see here, all that I just mentioned and more, is all being done by Bally's. Years ago, Bally's got the contract. Financing did go through. Obviously, here she is. This is Bally's building Chicago's new casino. Yeah, right on. It's a long-standing wish list item for those who run this city there at the 5th floor of City Hall. Several months ago, a stop work order was issued for the project as the city had to find out who actually owned all the dumpsters.
I use that family?
In boating, MOB means man overboard. With casinos, MOB means something very different. How you doing? Now we are about to get a beautiful view of downtown Chicago, folks. You are peeking into the grid system that is downtown Chicago, but you're coming into the city now on the river at an angle. Folks, the grid system, our alleyways, Buckingham Fountain, Grant Park, Upper and Lower Wacker Drive, these things we talk about, they all are part of the Daniel Burnham plan of Chicago. As you enjoy the view here, he's partially responsible for, and before I take my second of 3 breaks, here is the quote from Daniel Burnham we all remember very well. Burnham once said, "Make no little plans. Make no little plans, for they have no magic to stir men's blood. And they themselves, they may never actually be realized." He said, so aim high in work and in life. Take that quote home with you. Enjoy that. Enjoy the view here that Burnham is partially responsible for. I will pick back up very shortly, of course, with one more big this trip to go. Thank you all for enjoying and listening. You guys like this stuff?
Yes.
It's intriguing, right? Yeah.
Yes.
We love doing this. No one has more fun than us. We'll be right back after this break to continue having a good time on your journey here on the Summer of George. Cheers and thank you. Right on. Yeah. And if you're very tall, watch out for Grand Avenue. Low bridge coming.
There's my gym, East Bank Club. Shout out to all the East Bank Clubbians.
So the
that are
oldest
watching.
building on the tour I can show you dates back originally to 1898. 1898 is when the Fulton House was built. It's that brick building out there past the trees. Used to be a cold storage warehouse. It was a big cooler. When it was a big cooler, there were no windows, no balconies, just a blank facade, very thick walls stuffed with frozen material. The building was thawed out in the 1980s. Hundreds of truckloads of thawed material. They turned it into condos. The dimples that are on the building are shaped like starfish. The building has private dock access. The renovation was done in the 80s by Harry Weiss and Associates. You'll recall Harry Weiss, all his buildings featured nautical themes, right? He did the sailboat-inspired cottages right next door. When you do see the building more close up, find any balcony you want. Kindly do use the depth of the balconies today to appreciate how thick the walls used to be back in the day when it was a big cold storage warehouse. And let's all watch our heads here at Kinsey Street. As we come back through Wolf Point, you'll get really beautiful views of the downtown loop, peeking in at an angle. Watch your head, my good sir. Perfect. You did everything right. Big up to the Spriggs family. They follow instructions. That's all they do. No, good to have you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for making us part of your reunion. Now you good. Now you good. The tour is more exciting knowing we're all in imminent danger. There, I said it. And then find a balcony, appreciate how thick the walls used to be, and wave to those guys. How are you, boys? I knew the sleeveless t-shirt guy in the USA was going to be the most nuts, and he did not disappoint. I'm like, that boy's crazy, let's go. All right, right next door to the old cooler, this one I say big color, big material, big architecture. Folks, early 2000s by James DeStefano. This is the residences at River Bend. We've talked a little bit about contextualism, mimicking the environment. The bend in the building here follows the bend in the river. A very skinny building, as the river predates it, of course, and so too do railroad tracks on the other side. So skinny is this building. There are no ramps in there to drive your car up to your $30,000 parking space. They have elevators which do that for you. All the windows and balconies face east. So those who do live there, they end up with this view right here. Peeking into the downtown loop, photographers, glance to your left. Once we clear Wolf Point South, you'll get a really good look at the main branch, looking out towards the St. Regis, the Gothic Rocket, London House, and the Cobbs. Look how nice that is. Boom. Welcome to Chicago. If I could please, I want to bring you back to 150 North Riverside Plaza. We talked about how slender the building is and why, how deep she goes and all this. This building, to keep it stable, does have a tuned mass damper on top. You'll recall we talked about big concrete tanks full of water sloshing about to help stabilize the building. Now, materials-wise, within the V-shaped part of the building, extraordinarily strong, heavy I-beams and girders. They had to be very strong, right, to hold the weight for the building. The steel within the V-shaped part of the building is made of what's called G5 steel. Folks, G5 steel is not just my new nickname. It's worked out so well, best summer ever. G5 steel happens to be some of the strongest steel manufactured on planet Earth. They make that stuff in Luxembourg. If you ever meet someone from Luxembourg, they will inevitably bring up their steel manufacturing unprovoked, which I love. I love that people from Luxembourg do that because Chicagoans are the same way. We will tell you where to buy your pizza when you don't ask. Go to Lou Malnati's, Giordano's, and Gino's East. Pizzeria Uno, Pizzeria Due, yeah, and then period, end of statement. Don't play with me. People in this city do eat Pequods now. If you like Pequods, you probably call it the Willis Tower. Unpopular opinion. I have lots of those. Wait till I'm not at work. Going to Wrigley tonight to actually see John Mulaney. First comic ever at Wrigley. What's good? Now the V-shaped supports at 150 North Riverside Plaza, those are being mimicked by the V-shaped supports over here at 110 North Wacker Drive. It's got the cloudism, it's got the shadow lines. Again, people actually calling this new stuff scarchitecture. 110 North Wacker Drive, though, was done by the same firm that did 150 North Riverside Plaza. So now you've got a firm, and they insist on doing this for years they have, a firm that is insisting upon referencing their own work. And Getch Partners does take heat in the industry for always referencing their stuff and not other people's stuff. But James Getch of Getch Partners, James is now well into his 70s. So I say let the man do what he wants. Once you get into your 70s, yeah, do what you want. Here's a downtown favorite to our left, designed by Graham Anderson, Probst and White. It's offices that wrap around a theater, and the setback laws of Art Deco made this building end up looking like a high-back armchair. Opened up just 1 week before the great stock market crash of 1929. You can read for yourself what it is, the Civic Opera Building. See above the lettering, which is a throwback to the Latin alphabet, on what's called a balconette. See the comedy and tragedy theater masks? Folks, that is a 1929 limestone advertisement letting passers-by know what's going on behind that blank facade, today the home of the Lyric Opera House of Chicago. That one's special. Go see the Civic Opera Building later in life. All right, friends, so the tour is nice, right? We have the luxury today of traveling the river, exploring the styles of architecture, the materials, etc. It's always nice on the tour to remember, take a step back and remember how long it takes for things to shift and change and new technology to become available, new styles to emerge. Take, for example, folks, after the fair, for 3 whole decades, right? 30 years, they're doing Greco-Roman style, Spanish, French, Gothic, Italian-inspired buildings. Then they shift in the 1920s and 30s to Art Deco, still using stone, but now they're taller, they're a bit more bold. Then throughout the 40s, there's like zero advancement in this area thanks to World War II. And then after the war, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 30 more years, we get modernism, right? The Miesian black boxes, less is more, office space is the emphasis. Well, the very same firm that did Gateway Center 2 here in the 60s, Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, in the 70s, they finally let loose, kicked their feet up, lost their minds, went berserk, and gave us a big white box. So Gateway Center 3 is still pretty basic, I'll concede this to you. It's still a box, office space is still the emphasis in the 70s, but this is the international style. It's a box that has some pizzazz, right? It's got a masonry exterior, there's tons of colors, there's 2. I read last week that 2 is twice that of 1. That math may check out, I don't know, but if you double anything, it's a big deal, it's all relative. Notice how the windows are recessed into the facade. As you go vertically though, those recessed windows slowly do punch their way out and become flush with the facade. So international, yeah, different than modernism, even though it's still a box. You also know from our journey, I've told you, it wasn't until the 1980s when they said, you know what, we're just not doing boxes any longer, please don't make me do it. Arriving just in time from 1983, Gateway Center 4 by James DeStefano. A cool example of contextualism, very dramatic bend in the building following the bend in the river, green reflective convex glass which gives you a kaleidoscope effect, and an outdoor patio so employees can have their lunch on the river. That was unheard of throughout our history. And then for your viewing pleasure, glance to your left, look straight up. A big mural was painted 6 years ago on the central panel of this building once the new owner of the structure found out I was not talking about his building. Boom, mural is working. See the dot in the middle? You are here. Yeah, it's a map of downtown Chicago, emphasis on the old swamp, which is now our river, emphasis on the grid system, which is the roadways from the Burnham Plan. And that dot in the middle is technically that building, right? And where it sits in the city on the river. I love that about that. This means in an effort to draw more attention to the building, you know, to really put it on the map. Thank you, thank you. And here it is. From the Daniel Burnham Plan, built in the 20s and 30s, designed by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White, nicknamed the Incredible Hulk, featuring 2.4 million square feet of space. Here is the former main Chicago post office. Burnham envisioned a roadway going through a public building. They wouldn't build the Eisenhower, the Ike 290, until 1954. But they built the building in the 20s and then waited with the hole in the middle that whole time. The old post office has been going through a renovation. It was purchased in 2016 by a firm out of Manhattan called 601 West Companies. They've spent about $1 billion bringing this thing back to new life. They've turned it into Class A offices. A beautiful rooftop has been done, and they will do a Riverwalk project here in the future. But to make a long story short, too late, the old post office was left abandoned back in 1996. For 2 decades, she sat there falling apart. It was sad. She actually racked up 21 building code violations. So 601 West Companies reimagining it is great. Of course, we in Chicago are very pleased indeed to watch the old post office get reimagined, as naturally it will bring a lot of attention to an otherwise forgotten quadrant of Chicago's beloved Southwest Loop. That last statement I took directly from the Tribune Company. I wanted to cite that for you all so you don't think I'm plagiarizing. I don't plagiarize. I am not running for office. Not yet. When you see vote for Dave, just click yes. I've got my interests at heart. Thank you, thank you. A young voter, a young voter. This tour is not just about the past. We do love the history and kind of peeling back the layers of time for you. But on this tour, we do look to the future. 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 A brand new neighborhood being built here just north of our dock called the South Bank. 4 buildings will be here, 3 of which are done. You have the Grand Central, the Cooper, and the Reed. The Grand Central and the Cooper have a pool, golf simulator, parking, lovely commons areas, studio, 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. But the Cooper, in the distance beyond the stone, you can rent those 2-story townhomes for $7 to $9 grand a month. And then the Reed here, same kinds of things. You'll see guys grilling right now poolside. You'll see the Riverwalk. The units are 1, 2, 3 bedroom. And that guy just spotted you. Let's all wave to him. That's just a bro. That's just a bro being a bro. Don't shake your head at me, Chad. Or whatever it is, no one cares. He just moved in. He thinks it's special. It isn't. I'll tell you what it is. This building. River City. Welcome, welcome to River City. Looks familiar, yeah? Not because we start here, y'all, that's too easy. River City was designed by Bertrand Goldberg, built in the 1980s. You'll recall he's the guy who did the Corn Cob buildings back in the 1960s. Now, River City, an S-shaped building of poured reinforced concrete. There's nearly 500 units up there, a temperature-controlled indoor glass atrium for residents, a rooftop for grilling and chilling. There is a school on the property. Peek in the windows there and see the kiddos' projects. But most importantly, here at River City, the only thing that actually matters in life the marina, where there are 70 boat slips, 7-0. Get yours today. Don't think about it, just do it. Folks, our marina is unique in that there are bubblers down there that disallow the water to freeze in the winter. You can leave your boat down there all year long. In fact, we know guys who live on their boats down there all year long. Do you know why they do that? Because they figured out life. I may have joked about mortgages earlier. Yeah, don't get a mortgage. Those can sometimes be 30 years. You'll never even make it. Now, trust me, I'll take it from me. When I say get a boat, you really should. Last summer, I finally pulled the trigger, got a boat. My boat sits just over here. It's in my trunk right now. It's an inflatable kayak. Yeah, it's a Sea Eagle 330. Yeah, they're an East Coast manufacturer making inflatable boats since the 1960s. And ladies, the Sea Eagle 330, two-seater. But hang on, I always go alone. You know why? Because it's all about me and her. Yes, the boat. Probably go for a kayak ride after work, then up to Wrigley to see the comedy show tonight. But I digress. On the right-hand side, from 1933, that's a power plant designed by Graham Anderson, Probst & White. It's an Art Deco building wherein they used to boil water by burning coal. The steam produced from that boiling water used to be disseminated to the rail yards down here. Now these rail yards are owned today by Metra and Amtrak, and that's okay. I've learned to live with that. But throughout the 20th century, this was all Pennsylvania Railroad property. Folks, my dad's dad, my grandpa Richard, he worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad for 39 years. He was of Danish stock. My grandpa Richard met his wife, my grandma Jean. She was Welsh, French, and English. Met her while she was working for the Pennsylvania Railroad. They raised my dad on Sayre Avenue in the Harwood Heights neighborhood. He's a North Sider. He married a South Side Italian girl. My mom grew up in the Archer Heights neighborhood at 47th Street in Pulaski. She lived in the home her great-grandparents procured when they came from Bari, Italy. My great-grandparents, Vito and Teresa, they're from Bari, Italy. My great-papa Vito Perillo, he used to be a bridge tender. He worked at the bridge houses here in Chicago, opening the bridges back in the day, now 100 years ago, back when cargo vessels had the right of way. So at least once in life, a North Sider has married a South Sider. June 20th, just a few weeks ago, was their 51st, actually. So you can't write this stuff. Working class Chicagoans doing working class things, building families here in Chi-Town. Great city. Here to our left, the 78. A brand new neighborhood that'll take 12 to 13 years. $15 billion will be invested for as many as 12 buildings. High-rises, mid-rises, townhomes, parks and gardens, Riverwalk projects. They call it the 78 because this will become the 78th community area in Chicago. On that container, an image of what's being built in the distance there. That's a $750 million project, 22,000-seat stadium being paid for partly by the Chicago Fire, our professional soccer team. Online renderings will show you what the 78 will look like. But even within our current 77 community areas, way more neighborhoods. And if you're into exploration, I think that you are, you'll love Chicago then, because many of our neighborhoods actually are the remnants of the different cultural niches carved out by various groups who built this here city we call Chicago. Big city, small town feel, and enjoy the culturally rich city of neighborhoods known as Chicago. The railroad bridges you see there are very impressive. Wait till we are underneath them. I'll take my third and final break. Let's go for one last boat ride together. This last break's a bit longer than previous breaks. Kindly do, folks, use this time now to take care of your bar and washroom needs. Take care of your bar and washroom needs. We'll pick back up in a little bit where I give you the great reveal, a beautiful skyline view. I've got a few more nice short stories to wrap things up, and then as we do get back to our dock in about 13 to 14 minutes, I will leave you then with an overly dramatic conclusion. As always, thanks for listening. Keep enjoying, and back on the microphone we shall be. Back at our dock in about 14 minutes. We will see you then. Cheers, and thank you. Thank you, thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you. No one has one.
To end my stream. Thank you so much for joining. Subscribe on Instagram at Tyler P. Jones. And don't forget to hit the subscription button. Say peace. Last